How we doing today, guys? My name is Glocktane. We're going to do things a little bit different here. I've got my face as the very large image, and then in the background, we've got a little bit of gameplay for you ADHD little fuckers. Lucky you. So, what we're going to be talking about today is how basically every role coincides with the other role. Now, this is probably going to be a shorter podcast episode, probably only like 10, 15 minutes. We're going to see how it works for the YouTube algorithm. Oh, look at that handsome devil. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is kind of piggybacking off of my last podcast episode. It was talking about how the DPS role has kind of lost its own independence, right? Every single role does what DPS does, and they use it in a different way. Every tank you are afraid to be right next to unless you are being pocketed by like both healers. Think about it. If you are playing any character other than Reaper, even Reaper is scared to be next to a Reinhardt, for God's sake. The reason they did this is because there's only one tank, and they wanted to see like, okay, well, if we upgrade all their damage, they can actually like be a menace. They can be a threat, right? And I agree with the idea in theory, but on paper, it is terrible. It is creating all of these egotistical children who play Sigma, Orisa, Junker Queen, and Doomfist, right? And Roadhog, you know, only 5 of the tanks that bitch and moan about being, well, I have the most damage and the most elims. You have AoE abilities and 700 health. All those characters are very selfish. Every single one of them. They use their abilities to survive for themselves. Think about characters like Reinhardt and Diva, right? Those characters dive onto the sniper, or they use their matrix to eat important abilities or save the DPS who gets hooked, right? Same with Zarya, but Zarya ended up becoming more selfish because they realized the damage output was so high. Again, another selfish tank. It's very frustrating as a DPS player to hear these kinds of things because I was GM in tank. I know exactly what is going through their heads. They're like, oh my God, they're not even filling their role. I'm filling their role. Oh yeah? What's Roadhog doing if he's not getting the one shots? Is he gonna save me if a Genji and a Winston dive on me? What's Roadhog gonna do there without his ultimate? He could potentially hook one, but if Winston throws the bubble on me, what's he gonna do? Fucking nothing. He doesn't punish bad positioning. He's just a one-shot machine. That's all he is. What's Junker Queen gonna do if Winston bubbles onto me? Maybe throw out a shout. But she's not gonna land that knife to CC him off. I'm waiting. It's one of those things. It's so frustrating. Like, what's Sigma gonna do? He can't even land his accretion. The only thing he can do is Flux, which is his ultimate for those of you who don't know. These things are so prevalent to the fragile characters like support and DPS that tank players don't really pay attention to it, right? When you're taking space, you are not just W keying trying to kill as a tank. And this is all important. It will cascade into the other roles, don't worry. But when you're playing Winston, you're jumping in, trying to do as much damage as you can, and then hop away, seeing if you can re-engage. Or if you hop in, kind of bait a couple of, abilities, maybe some agency out of the supports, a sleep dart, that kind of thing. And you have your ultimate to then reset everything, reset all your health, all that kind of stuff. You also have a shield to hop onto your support. Like if the Genji hops onto your support, you just jump onto your own support and just throw down the bubble. Genji's fucked. Right? These kinds of things are what, in my opinion, make a great tank. I absolutely hate when some, I will say child, picks Sigma, goes 52-3, and then sees the DPS, both the DPS, let's say, have 15 deaths. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? You guys combined have 10 times as many deaths. And of course, this is me pulling from experience because, Overwatch 2 solo queue is so fun, so good. Sigma, again, is a selfish character. He uses his shield for himself. He uses his kinetic grasp for himself. And then he fluxes. If you're not fluxing as kind of a CC to combo with a DPS player, and you're just doing it because you see you could do it to 5, congratulations. You are just playing third DPS. You're playing the most selfish DPS possible in Overwatch 2. And it's jarring. It is absolutely insanity to listen to these kids, right? Because they have the health pool of what, 480 or something like that for Sigma, and then also the kinetic grasp and a shield, and both healers are worried about our tank. Because what happens if our tank is dead? Enemy tank just walks at us because he's the most important character. So that's why I play Zenyatta, right? Is because a lot of kids that are diamond and below don't understand just how fragile they are when they have the Discord orb on them. And you could probably see in the video, I put the Discord orb on a Doomfist, and I was just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Even when he was doing his block, right? Because it doesn't matter if he's charged up, if he's dead. He blocks 80%, but he takes an extra 30%. So 50% is still way more than they realize they're taking. That's just how it goes. The main point of how these all coincide into each other is that there's a big problem in tank players not understanding that their main contribution is to CC, take space, not by just going for kills, but by also opening up opportunities for their DPS players. If you're thinking selfishly as a tank, you will stay stuck in your elo hell. The highest tanks that I see, if you come by my stream or you come by my TikTok streams, bro, the only things that make me smile are Reinhardts that are saying, okay, I'm going to be using my shield. I'm going to be looking for shatter here. I'm going to try to hit a fire strike on blank blank. Giving us opportunities, and we just steamroll those games. The hardest games are when people just pick like Roadhog or Junker Queen and God forbid Orisa, and they're just like, okay, well, I'm doing all this damage. It's like, did you combo any of your ults? Did you tell us who you were trying to prioritize? Because it's not always, oh, well, I obviously just prioritize blank. No. That is scoreboard analysis, and it's pathetic. DPS players are also kind of guilty at this, right? Your goal is not to force into the point. That's your tank's job. That is 100% your tank's job. Now, if he's failing at it, you can talk to him and say, hey, do you want to swap? And if he's just being a child or she's being a child, fuck it. I guess it is your job. I guess, you know, have the mercy pocket you. Pray to God your sojourn right clicks are, you know, up to par. But the biggest thing that you should also be worrying about as DPS is keeping your supports alive. How often, as support players, type in the comments below, how often would your teammates get free kills if they just helped keep you alive? If the Genji dives you and you damn near almost kill him, but he kills you because he's a dive character and he's meant to be doing that, right? How often do you think that happens to you? Or, you know, if you disagree with me, tell me why. But I play Cassidy, right? I play Soldier. And Ash is also pretty solid at it because, you know, if the Winston's diving on us, just boom, coach gun, and he just falls back, right? The biggest thing in those situations is just extending my own agency. And if I'm calling out like, oh, we got this on me, that's why I play Zenyatta a lot. It's because the Discord orb and the kickback makes it really easy for any DPS to help me out. There are sometimes I even just kick the enemy into my DPS like, go get him, champ. Just bah, you know? DPS players who say, oh my God, my fucking healer is always dead. Why is this? You're overextending. Stop it. Help your DPS live. Obviously, there's a kill opportunity there if he keeps fucking dying. But it was a Widowmaker across the map. So go Tracer, go Sombra. Go another Widowmaker, go Ashe, dude. For God's sake, anything that contests the Widow. And you're like, oh, how does Ashe do that? Dynamite around a corner. Bob. Coach gun up to her. Get in her fucking face. Anything, right? The idea stands that you need to be looking for these other ways to help within your roles. You are not football players who are saying, oh, the quarterback's just messing up his throw. There's nothing I can do as an offensive lineman. Yeah, I mean, you can't make the dude throw better, right? But, you know, you can tell the quarterback, you can say, hey, quarterback, I can see your Winston's pretty fucking awful. Do you like Diva more? yeah, I'd go diva if I had a main healer. Tell you what, I'll go main healer. I love you, bro. Let's go. You and me. You can continue to change the game. There are like 37 characters in Overwatch, guys. I don't know if you know this. It's quite a few. There's quite a few in here. And so that's how the DPS players are really failing, in my opinion. Then the support characters, you guessed it, heal botting. It's the easiest one. That's why I saved it for last, right? If you're playing Zenyatta and you're trying your hardest just to be healing, it's like, what are you doing? No, go play a character like Mercy. Okay, I can't think of a single character other than Mercy who really thrives off of just the healing aspect. Like, every character that is a support class has a niche they fill. Like, let's look at Lucio. Obviously, environmental kills, booping people away. If, you know, you're fighting against a Roadhog and you're playing Lucio, just stay next to your DPS or, like, get up in the Roadhog's face with your team. Speed your team onto him. Even if he hooks somebody, just boop him away. He can't get the one shot. You have to walk forward as Roadhog to get the one shot. At Masters level, a good Lucio? Oh, chef's kiss. Oh, it's amazing. Because they're actively doing things other than just heal botting. But on the other coin of that, if you're only looking towards doing damage, you aren't doing anything. Because your DPS are dying, right? So there's the inverse of the argument we just had. If the DPS keeps saying, bro, I'm dying constantly. I'm not over peaking. I'm literally fighting for my life. And the Baptiste goes, I'm doing good. I can self-heal. I got emo field. Just go play Soldier. It's like, if Soldier doesn't fit what the team needs, does Baptiste? Like, if they had Ash Widow and you're just like, oh, just play Soldier. Soldier's probably going to get shit on because of the distance and amount of DPS fall off, right? Now, of course, there are so many examples that I want to bring out, but I'm trying to give you the bare minimum within like a little podcast episode. So the big thing to avoid that kind of heal botting is you want to position yourself in a way that you can hit the enemies and also see your teammates. That's a big difference. Played with a Baptiste the other day who exclusively tried to flank and be a third DPS. And it's like, okay, cool. That's neat, right? But when I die, you can't say, how did you die? It's like, if the Mercy Sojourn pushes me, even as Soldier, my 30 healing per second with my little pack versus, you know, her insta one shot and also her 60 healing per second on the Mercy is probably going to be a little bit better, right? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, with that example in mind, do we want a Baptiste? Well, yeah, it's totally fine. We just don't want a Baptiste who's not even remotely focused on healing. Because if they see that Mercy Sojourn coming in, you know what they could do? Throw down the emo field, say, let's just fucking light them up. Just focus the Mercy. Sojourn can't right click. She can't just insta-kill you guys. She could build charge off of it. But if she's building charge off of it, you have plenty of time to be hitting the Mercy and or her. Right? This is kind of like, you know, how it cascades into itself. The Baptiste went from being a very minimalistic assassin. Oh my god, the damage fall of like, what, 25 meters, 20 meters or some shit like that. Went from being a terrible assassin to then helping the DPS fight. Now with Zenyatta, one of the big things is overextending, right? So it's the inverse, where it's like if you're constantly pushing forward to the front of the team, you're going to have a hard time. If you keep constantly holding right click to try to do more damage instantly for those juicy one shots, but your team just needs the Discord orb out and the Harmony orb out, then the biggest thing is just change that. Just stop right clicking so much. You don't need to get those one shots. You do more damage with left click and Discord over those shots, right? But people see those juicy one clips in the Overwatch League of the and then they die. But the biggest tip I can give you as Zenyatta is just think to yourself, okay, well, enemies pushing in. Let's, you know, AD spam, move around, maybe kick them a bit. Because the kick is CC in its own sense, which is crowd control for those of you who don't know. But you kind of get the idea of where it's going, right? I hope this isn't just rambling to you guys. Because I do genuinely believe that, you know, Tanks need to be understanding that they have more roles than just damage. They need to also be CC and to know when to turn back and help their team. That's how you make space, is then with those picks, you can then get onto point. Or if they're not diving, you be the one that dives onto the back line, helping give space. Very important distinctions. With DPS, understanding when you have good healing, you can take those aggressive angles, right? If they don't have one-shot characters, you can afford to stand still for a split second. And if your team is getting dove constantly, maybe pick something that helps get the dive off of your supports, right? Because if the opportunities aren't deep in the enemy lines, but deep in your own lines, you have the easiest job in the world. You just got to turn around, shoot that fucking Genji. Oh, deflect. Symmetra, fuck him. What? Like, just put a bunch of turrets down and be like, all right, Zen, stand in here. What's he gonna do? What's Genji gonna do? Is he gonna run over, kill every turret, and then also kill the Zenyatta? No. If he does, it's on you. I mean, you can't really blame anybody. Come on now, bro. Then with supports, if you're hyper fixating on either healing, like say, you know, not doing the 60-40 split as Mercy and just doing pure healing. It's like, I had 20,000 healing. What was this? It's like, well, the DPS needed extra damage to help get the kill. I had only 7,000 healing as Zenyatta. What do you mean? I also had 12k damage. It's like, okay, that's a pretty good score, but was it actually getting you kills? It's like, no, we had 10 elims. Congratulations. That 12k damage means nothing. If you lose with a big stat number, guess what? You still fucking lose. So in these clips that you've probably been watching in the back here, left and right, you see a lot of the times, I'm only right clicking when they're super far away. And when they get close, discord and kick. Right there. I just got over aggressive. It's fine. We end this game 37, 32, and 12. I had 37 kills as Zenyatta. It's insanity. I out-damaged my own DPS, and I out-healed the enemy healers. This is the kind of level of thinking and positioning and gameplay planning that comes from actually trying to understand the game. If you just push for rank, and you think to yourself, I'm this role, I do this, you're going to win like 50% of your games, and you're going to be really angry, and you're going to, you know, maybe get 1 or 2 good wins. But when you take the time to understand what each role actually does, when you have that Roadhog that says, I don't understand what's happening, you can help fill the role. If you have a support that says, dude, I don't know what to do, this Genji's just on me, and your DPS, you're going to fill the role. If you're playing tank and, you know, the DPS just are like, I have no opportunities, you could say like, hey, is it the one shots that are a problem, or are they diving you? That's the problem. Sometimes you're just going to get DPS diff, you're going to get tank diff, and you're going to get support diff. Taking these intelligent looks into what happens is so much more important than just checking the scoreboard, right? Now, of course, I'm just talking about the things that are super important to me for Overwatch, and trying to teach people these like little differences is very minute and difficult. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek at my new YouTube video coming out called The Zenyatta to the Stars. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I just really want anybody that takes the time to enjoy my content, I just really want you guys to understand there is always something you can do. Now, even I, at some times, like, there's nothing I can do. And it's just like, it's bullshit. I'm just angry. I'm upset. Then afterwards, when we're talking to stream, we're like, okay, well, obviously I could have done this. I could have just not died here. I could have just ran away. I didn't need to not take this 1v1. You need to be analytical, introspective, and honest. So, next episode is probably going to be talking about what Overwatch 2 needs to do to retain its actual grinders. Because right now, the biggest players in the game play quick play more than competitive, and that's a big red flag. If you don't enjoy the competitive atmosphere in a video game, more often than not, it's gonna die, right? The largest viewership for for Apex Legends, ranked. Valorant, ranked. League of Legends, ranked. If Overwatch doesn't manage to capture that same feeling of prestige, an actual, like, you know, accomplishment, that's going to be a big fucking problem. So we're going to talk about that next episode. If you have a kind of topic that you want to talk about, go ahead and feel free to leave them down. I try to do these once a week. This is just my day off, you know. Hit the gym, did some chores, and I was like, fuck, I want to talk about something. And the wife was like, go vent, make a podcast. So these are my thoughts as an ex-GM, a current Masters in a different role. And, you know, hell, if we get GM and DPS, we'll probably go for it in support next. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're excited for the actual Zenyatta video to come out. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Deuces.